It began with the sound of handcuffs snapping shut in the middle of a crowded corporate lobby while hundreds of employees watched in stunned silence. A widowed single father who had spent years rebuilding his life after unimaginable loss stood accused of stealing $10 million from the company he had devoted everything to. His young daughter cried as officers led him away, but the most chilling sight wasn't the arrest. It was the CEO standing just a few feet away, wearing the confident smile of someone who believed she had erased every trace of the truth. She thought the story was over. She had no idea that every stolen dollar carried one detail she had overlooked: her own signature. Before we continue, if you believe kindness is stronger than cruelty, forgiveness is more powerful than revenge, and everyone deserves hope and a second chance, please like this video, leave a comment, share this story with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to our channel so our community and our family can continue bringing inspiring stories like this to you. Graham Mercer had never imagined that life could become so quiet after losing the love of his life. 3 years earlier, his wife had passed away after a sudden illness, leaving him alone to raise their 8-year-old daughter, Elodie. Every morning began before sunrise, not because he enjoyed early mornings, but because his responsibilities left no room for delay. He packed lunches, braided his daughter's hair with awkward determination after watching countless tutorials, made breakfast that was rarely perfect, and drove her to school before heading to Mercer Dynamics, a technology company where he worked as senior financial compliance analyst. His salary was comfortable but not extravagant. Most of it disappeared into school expenses, mortgage payments, medical bills left behind from his wife's treatment, and a small savings account he quietly built for Elodie's future. His greatest pride wasn't his career. It was hearing his daughter tell her teacher that her father never missed a school event, no matter how busy work became. Mercer Dynamics was led by CEO Celeste Hawthorne, a brilliant executive celebrated by business magazines for transforming struggling companies into profitable giants. Investors admired her confidence. Employees respected her intelligence. Few people ever questioned her decisions because success surrounded her like armor. Yet beneath polished speeches and carefully crafted public appearances was someone consumed by an obsession with winning at any cost. Quarterly profits mattered more than people. Reputation mattered more than integrity. Power mattered more than truth. Several months before Graham's arrest, Mercer Dynamics quietly began losing money through hidden investments that had been approved personally by Celeste. She had authorized risky acquisitions through offshore accounts, expecting enormous returns. Instead, the investments collapsed, creating a financial disaster worth nearly $10 million. Rather than admit her mistake to the board of directors, she began searching for someone who could absorb the blame. She needed someone respected enough that the accusation would seem shocking but believable. She needed someone who had complete access to financial systems. She needed someone who would never suspect he was being set up. Graham fit every requirement. Because he managed compliance reports, he regularly reviewed banking records, authorization logs, and transaction histories. He believed accuracy protected everyone. Ironically, that same trust made him vulnerable. Celeste secretly instructed her chief information officer to duplicate Graham's digital credentials, allowing fraudulent transfers to appear as though they originated from his account. The transfers were processed over several weeks during ordinary business hours, hidden among thousands of legitimate financial transactions. Every document appeared flawless. Every audit trail pointed toward Graham. Every forged approval seemed authentic. The day investigators arrived, Graham expected another routine meeting. Instead, he found police officers waiting beside human resources representatives. Employees gathered in stunned silence as accusations filled the lobby. News cameras arrived almost immediately after someone anonymously contacted local media. Graham's face appeared across television screens before noon beneath headlines describing the theft of $10 million by a trusted company employee. Elodie sat quietly in the principal's office after school because no relative could reach her in time. She clutched the small drawing she had made for her father that morning. It showed the two of them holding hands beneath a bright afternoon sun. She kept asking whether her father had done something bad. Nobody knew how to answer. Although devastated, Graham refused to surrender to despair. During questioning he answered every question honestly, insisting investigators examine every document as carefully as possible. His attorney noticed something unusual almost immediately. Graham never denied that the transfers existed. Instead, he repeatedly requested complete authorization records rather than summary reports. He understood financial systems well enough to know that sophisticated fraud often hid within overlooked administrative details. Meanwhile, Celeste celebrated privately, believing the crisis had been contained. Shareholders praised her quick response against corporate misconduct. Reporters described her as a courageous leader protecting company assets. Sympathy poured toward the company while suspicion buried Graham's reputation. Days later, Detective Roland Pierce received a complete archive of transaction metadata requested by Graham's attorney. Most investigators ignored metadata because it appeared painfully technical, but Roland had spent years uncovering white-collar crimes by studying details criminals believed nobody would notice. As he examined authorization certificates attached to every transfer, one pattern refused to disappear. Each transfer required 2 independent executive approvals before funds could leave international accounts. The visible approval displayed Graham's forged credentials. The hidden executive authorization displayed a digital certificate belonging to Celeste Hawthorne. At first investigators assumed the CEO had simply approved Graham's requests. Yet something made no sense. Company policy required executive signatures only after compliance verification. If Graham had truly initiated the theft, why would the CEO personally authorize every single transfer without asking questions? Roland expanded the investigation. More evidence surfaced. Security footage showed Graham attending school events, medical appointments with Elodie, and board presentations during several transfer times. He physically could not have accessed secured terminals when certain transactions were executed. Computer log analysis revealed remote administrative overrides originating from executive offices. The Information Technology Department reluctantly admitted that duplicated credentials existed, though nobody claimed responsibility. Pressure began building around Celeste. The board demanded explanations. Journalists started asking uncomfortable questions. Employees remembered strange instructions to bypass standard review procedures. One accountant quietly revealed that Celeste had personally insisted on accelerating overseas transfers despite internal warnings. Still, Celeste denied everything. She blamed software errors, rogue administrators, and misunderstood procedures. Then Roland uncovered the document that changed everything. Months before the alleged theft, Celeste had signed confidential authorization allowing emergency executive privileges to override financial safeguards without secondary approval during acquisition negotiations. She had forgotten the document existed because it had been buried among hundreds of legal files. Unfortunately for her, every override left an invisible executive fingerprint linked directly to her signature certificate. The same signature appeared on every fraudulent transfer, not one, not several, every single transfer. The courtroom remained silent as forensic specialists explained how digital signatures functioned. Unlike ordinary typed names, executive certificates were uniquely encrypted and impossible to duplicate without authorized access. Every stolen dollar passed through approvals personally tied to Celeste's executive identity. For the first time since the investigation began, Graham felt something stronger than heartbreak, hope. The charges against him collapsed almost immediately. Reporters who had once portrayed him as a criminal now covered his release. Cameras captured him embracing Elodie beneath warm afternoon sunlight outside the courthouse. She cried into his shoulder while refusing to let go. People watching across the country saw not a thief, but a father who had endured humiliation without abandoning honesty. Celeste faced criminal charges including fraud, evidence tampering, financial conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. The same board members who once applauded her leadership voted unanimously to remove her from every executive position. Investors realized that protecting appearances had nearly destroyed an innocent man's life, yet the deepest victory arrived unexpectedly. Mercer Dynamics offered Graham his position back immediately along with financial compensation and public apologies that he declined. Months of humiliation could not be erased with promotions or money. Instead, Graham accepted an invitation from several former colleagues to establish a new financial ethics consulting firm dedicated to preventing corporate fraud and protecting honest employees from becoming scapegoats. The company began modestly in a renovated office filled with second-hand furniture and determined people who believed integrity deserved a place in business. Clients slowly arrived, drawn by Graham's reputation for transparency rather than profit. Elodie watched her father smile again during ordinary afternoons instead of forcing brave expressions for her sake. She no longer feared answering questions about him at school because everyone knew the truth. Teachers often invited Graham to speak about honesty, resilience, and courage. He never described himself as extraordinary. He simply explained that truth sometimes walks more slowly than lies, but it almost always reaches the finish line. One afternoon, nearly a year later, Graham received an unexpected handwritten letter. It came from Celeste. She admitted that fear of failure had consumed her until protecting herself mattered more than protecting innocent people. She confessed that every dishonest decision became easier after the first one. She never asked for sympathy. She simply acknowledged the pain she had caused. Graham read the letter several times, then he quietly placed it inside a drawer. He chose not to carry hatred for the rest of his life because Elodie deserved a father whose heart remained open instead of poisoned by bitterness. Forgiveness did not erase justice, nor did it excuse betrayal. It simply allowed hope to occupy the place where anger once lived. As seasons passed, Graham often reflected that losing his reputation had nearly broken him, but rebuilding his character had made him stronger than success ever could. His greatest achievement wasn't exposing corruption or starting a respected business. It was raising a daughter who learned that kindness should never depend on circumstances and that truth is worth defending even when the entire world doubts you. Before we reach the end of this journey, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave a meaningful comment and tell our community, if you were in Graham's position, would you have forgiven Celeste after everything she did, or would you have found that impossible? Your thoughts may encourage someone facing betrayal today. As the afternoon sun stretched across the small park where Graham and Elodie shared a picnic after another ordinary school day, there were no television cameras, no headlines, no applause, and no courtroom victories waiting ahead. There was only a father laughing with his daughter, grateful for simple moments that money could never buy and corruption could never steal. The scars remained, but so did hope. The lies had been loud, yet the truth proved stronger. The betrayal had been devastating, yet forgiveness prevented it from becoming the final chapter. Sometimes justice arrives through evidence no one expects, sometimes healing begins with a single act of courage, and sometimes the greatest victory is simply refusing to let someone else's darkness extinguish your own light. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Thank you for being part of our family and our community, where stories remind us that truth, compassion, and second chances still have the power to change lives.